Welcome to Real Men Eat Plants, the podcast that challenges the stereotype that a plant-based diet is only for Eve's offspring and green smoothie anarchists. We're here to show you that real men can thrive on a plant-based diet, and that it's not only good for your health, but also for the planet, animals, and most importantly, your libido. Okay, maybe your libido shouldn't be more important than the planet, but we're just being realistic here. Join us as we explore the fascinating world of plant-based living, sharing inspiring stories, exciting plant-based news, and highlighting the achievements of individuals who have embraced this empowering way of life. So grab that green smoothie and settle into your favorite spot, and let's embark on an exciting journey together. Real Men Eat Plants is your hub for inspiration, information, and connection within the vibrant world of plant-based living.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Real Men Eat Plants podcast. We are here with some amazing fellow plant-based men to talk and unpack some more awesome topics today. I am filling in for Shane from Shane and Simple as the host today, while he is off dealing with some stuff, getting ready for some other big events he's got going on. So let's all just go around the horn, say hi and where you're coming in from and what you do, and then we'll dive into today's topic a little bit. So Glenn, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, and Glen Merzer, coming to you from somewhere in the Midwest. I write a lot of books advocating the whole food plant-based diet.
Thank you, Glenn. Appreciate you being here. He's got some amazing books. Paul.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Paul Chatlin, and I'm the founder of the Plant-Based Nutrition Support Group, pbnsg.org, the only national support group. I'm also the co-founder of the Sage Circle Alliance. So we are going to be debuting that very soon, and I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. We appreciate you being here too, Paul. And we do have the Real Men Eat Plants group on PBNSG. So if you want to hang out with us live and chat with us, come check out that group. Maxime, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So yeah, my name is Maxime Siqouin, calling in from Los Angeles, but originally Canadian. So escaping the winter this year. Very excited about that. And I'm the founder of Fit Vegan Coaching, which is one of the world's top whole food plant-based body recomposition coaching programs.
That is awesome. We were just hanging out with Jeff Palmer last week on a few other things, and just love to see us vegan men topping the charts on all those different angles. So thanks for being here. Last but not least, Mr. Anthony.
Yes, thank you. I'm Anthony Masiell. I'm calling in from lovely New Jersey. I have not escaped winter. We had snow flurries yesterday. It was actually beautiful. This time of year it's beautiful. February and March, we're kind of sick of it, but so far we're welcoming it, welcoming winter. And I run a company called Love.Life Telehealth. We're on a mission. Well, we're making lifestyle medicine available to patients nationally. So wherever they are, we want patients to know that they have access to a doctor who practices lifestyle medicine rooted in whole food plant-based nutrition.
Awesome. Thank you all for being here. We got a nice, well-rounded group, I think. And I know we were talking a few minutes before we started and stuff. So I want the conversation to just go wherever it takes it. But I thought I would kick us off with a couple of questions around some videos that I saw in the past maybe month or so, just talking about activism and strikes and changing the perceptions of the world and stuff. And the theory that I heard was that it takes 3.5% of a population to reach this critical mass. 3.5% of whatever that group of people is the right number. And once you reach 3.5%, that is the tipping point. So today I really wanted to talk about, like, in particular, obviously us and our plant-based journeys to change the world here. But like, what do we see as the tipping point? Why isn't America turning vegan faster? Because in my opinion, if we say there's 300 million Americans or 350 million Americans, and the numbers that I always see is at least 12% are vegetarian, probably a lower percentage for us vegans and whole food plant-based type people, I feel like we're probably close to that 3.5%. So why I do see more, Beyond Meat and those kinds of things coming, but I don't know. I'd be so curious to see what each of your perspectives are. So anybody want to jump in first there?
Let me ask, do you have any idea how they came up with 3.5?
I guess it's just been an ongoing, really, really strong study. So there's this 3.5% rule. Historically, it's been observed that once 3.5% of a population becomes dedicated to a cause, significant social change occurs.
Because there's a chance that we're now at 3.4999, and you listening, you could be the person who flips this whole thing.
I love it, Glenn.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, and what, as you described that, and Glenn, thank you for asking for that clarification, because that's what brought this out. It when you said the cause, Bryan, and what is the cause? I see, even within the whole food plant-based community, I see a variety of causes, a variety of reasons why people switch, and I wonder if it I don't know how unified the vegan message is. I mean, I know people who are vegan for animals. I know people who are vegan for their own personal health. I know people who are adopting vegan lifestyle for the environment. I know some people who think that their version of the vegan diet is far superior to other people's version of the vegan diet. I know that some people think that their reasons for being vegan are much more important than other people's reasons for being vegan. And so I wonder if that's a little bit of a distraction, and it's going to take us kind of, and we don't have that 3.5% that are in any one of those kind of camps to really make it something that makes other people. I think you have to make people want to adopt it. Like, let's say that when the iPhone came out, like the first 3.5% of the population who got the iPhone, they started making everyone else jealous because they could simply do things we couldn't do, right? And the cost of entry, while expensive, wasn't like what we're asking people to do, which is basically change something so core as the way that you live your lifestyle and the way that you eat, and basically the things that you believe in. You have to change the things you believe in.
Yeah, leading by example, I think makes the world of a difference. Like being in the coaching space, I was like, what we talked before we started recording, how do we get more people that aren't vegan to go vegan, or more people to kind of eat plant-based? And on a personal note, I've never had a lot of success going to people being like, how you're eating is wrong. You should be eating this way. Because then you're just purely confronting a value system or a belief system they'd had for a very long time. And so I thought, like, well, let me just become a very attractive character. Let me just, get fit, do Ironman, do all of these incredible things with my body and have a lot of energy. And people are like, hey, what are you doing? Or you're at the gym, like, how did you build those arms? How did you build those legs? Well, I eat tofu and I eat tempeh and I eat kale and I eat beans and grains. And they're like, really? You did all of this with just eating this stuff? I'm like,
they don't believe it.
Tell me more. Yeah, like, tell me more. I feel like, so if you lead by example, people are a lot more receptive to kind of the change versus, confronting people about it. Because you guys all notice, once you get into the vegan world, it opens up. There's like whole food plant-based, there's raw vegan, there's like so many sectors of veganism. And I feel like that can confuse a lot of people as well when they come in, and just makes them go backwards too. That's another.
And to Glenn's point,
aspect.
it's 0.099 and all these other subsections. So we aren't getting to 3.5%. Yeah, for sure.
I got a few thoughts, and Maxime, I agree with you. It's funny. We haven't done this yet, but I'm willing to throw down at my age of almost 66 a chin up or pull up contest to anybody my age or 5 years younger. Okay, because I agree. My whole family's like, I lead by example. That's what I do. Mm-hmm. But saying that, I wrote a couple little items. One is, the question is, why are people jumping in the vegan world, plant-based world? It's because we don't have a voice. Okay. Everybody else, first of all, the industries that are out there, dairy, meat industries, and every other industry has now watered that word plant-based down. So it doesn't have the same meaning it did 10 years ago, 12 years ago when I started. Number one. Number two is all the people at the very top, they're doing their own thing. They could collectively band together, pool their money and resources, and have one voice, so we could have a chance of getting to that 3%.
Paul, what do you mean everyone at the top? Who are you referring to?
All the people that we grew up listening to from, I don't want to name names, but you know,
The
they're the
leading
ones.
doctors, you mean, in the movement?
Yeah.
Like the people from big documentaries and all that kind of coming together.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, you know, point a finger, you know, we could throw one name. You know, like I was life saved by Dr. Esselstyn. He's an example. Now, granted, everyone's getting older, so like I don't point a finger at somebody, you know, of him. He saved my life, and he's older. But the point being is, if everyone would just sit there and say, instead of working individually, work together, there would be a chance of a louder voice and a connection. The thing that concerns me the most is that for guys to make a change, there would have to be an event. You know, maybe an individual event. What scares me is it would be a planetary event. You know, something like that. So, you know, guys generally don't move until there's something happens, or unless they're threatened by something, and whatever it is, wife, health, whatever it might be, a challenge. So I just think that if we were able to get one voice, and you know, I think the other thing too is that just keep in mind, when I started, whole food plant-based was whole food plant-based. Today,
There's no other option.
Everything. It's everything. Everyone's got plant-based lotion, plant-based perfume, plant-based, you know. So we gotta pivot, we gotta change. That's the way it's gonna come off if we are gonna work together and get that 3.5.
Yeah, and I think like a big part, like we talked about this before we started recording, I feel like women have such are the powerhouse of the homes when it comes to influencing the husband a lot of the time, right? Talk about men eating plants. And so I feel like we're doing a really good job of, I say, marketing or targeting women with kind of the education, and the one that are a little more attracted to this type of information and recipe and style of eating. But on the men's side, I think like documentaries like The Game Changer did a lot for some of the men that wanted to transition, because that's the big question, right? It's like, will I lose my muscle mass, which can be associated to masculinity for survival, right? Survival instincts. And so I feel like just having more men that are doing incredible things, like obviously you guys know who Nehemiah is, Robert Cheek, you know, Chris Paul in the NBA, like a lot of more bigger athletes are transitioning to eating plant-based. At least that's what I'm seeing on my side. People come to us with like, I saw this in this person, and they're like really big and they're vegan. Like, I want to look like that and be vegan. But a lot of people want to look like that regardless of what it takes to get there. So if they see more bodybuilders eating steak and chicken and rice, then that's what they're going to do. Right. So we just need, I feel like, need more example of men leading the way in that way.
Maxime, if you want to add me to that list, I did 23 push-ups today.
And Glenn. Yes.
Usually do only 20, but I'm just getting more buff.
Good.
Sweet.
Yeah, I guess the string that you're tugging on is, Maxime, with what, you know, the American dietary habits that we have, our cultural perceptions. You know, meat is tied with that masculinity in a big way too.
I think a really good point that you make, and what I liked about the Game Changers movie is it kind of acted like an invitation. It wasn't a scare tactic. It wasn't a push. It wasn't a kind of shake you and wake you up kind of thing. It's like, here's a bunch of people. Here are a bunch of people, and they're doing pretty well, right? But many of them are near the top of their sport already, and they're doing pretty great. And now they adopted, you know, a whole food plant-based diet, and they just even did better. So to your point, they didn't lose everything that made them who they are to begin with, but it even made them better. And I feel like that did give hope. I think, you know, I wonder sometimes, of all the different documentaries, like maybe on the other side of the coin would be something like What the Health, right? Yeah. Which is very much kind of poking at the existing system and the absurdity of it, which is all important and true, and I think helps people. But I wonder which one influenced more new people to even become plant curious or curious about a vegan diet, or you know, is it someone who's kind of told, oh, everything, if you don't, you're basically going to die, right? Like some people took that as a take-home message from What the Health, right? Versus the Game Changers approach is, if you do, you will thrive, right? So I think different people, depending on how scared you are, where you're coming from, But I think if we want to talk about getting into mainstream, I think those invitations are going to be much more effective than those kind of pushes, those scare tactics.
Yeah.
I agree completely, because I think, like, if you look at my LinkedIn profile, I put the little green leaf on it at the end of my name. It's like Bryan Dennstedt with the green leaf at the end, and that instantly inspired. Like, what is the leaf? What does that mean? They have to look at my profile. They have to scroll down. They're curious. Then they ask me the question. Like, and I know I'm a leader in my IT space in a big way, and I know many other people have approached me and just said, "You're really vegan? You really, you haven't eaten meat in a while?" And like, how does that translate into your career? So I know it's just by putting the leaf in my LinkedIn profile has brought the questions out. So it's just that subtle way of influencing.
I thought it meant you were selling weed, so I was confused.
That's why you get all those
kind of leaf.
connections.
That's a different.
Yeah.
I would like to also say that one thing is people get older. The big issue and the thing I love about whole food plant-based is the word recovery. I mean, I do work out 6 days a week, and I'm never sore. But you talk to anybody, 50 and up or 60 and up, and that's what you hear. I can't move. I'm too sore, or they have to go get aspirin. I don't take aspirin, and I can do the same workout, different parts every day. So, I mean, I think that is something that needs to be shouted out to people to give this whole food plant-based a try for all these benefits. So I was always hoping that those 21-day, 15 whatever jump starts would change the world and make a big difference. But like many things, it hasn't made enough of a difference.
Yeah. Being being in the coaching space, like we work with people like from 50 to 80 years old, right? So a lot of people that come in are coming in because they've had health scares or health issues, and they're looking to kind of reduce those risks, or they have a lot of their close friends kind of pass away or get sick, and they're like, I really need to do something different. Heard about whole food plant-based through a documentary or RIP or kind of all those other podcasts, and then they want to create some of those changes. What I found is that when they change the way that they eat, the recovery gets better, their energy gets better. But then what's cool about it is they become like a shining light amongst their circle of friends and community. And so by having 5 people that are getting fitter, then their community is getting impacted. Again, still the same concept of leading by example. But I think the recovery is such a huge part at that age, with continuing to be active. But I feel like it's such a great way to get people to change, because most people are going to come in because there's pain, right? Like pain creates short-term change, and then kind of wanting a better future will create more lasting change and continue the habits. But, when you ask the question at the beginning of like what needs to happen, not to turn this into a dark topic, but I feel like there's going to be a point where America is so sick that they're going to be forced to create a change at that point. And I don't think that we've quite gotten there yet.
Hey Maxime, I got a question.
Bottom.
It's like when I walk around, I'm in crowds, wherever I may be, I take a kind of a visual look at, all the people I don't know, but as they walk around. And it seems like in the last 4 or 5 years, like, it's amazing how big people are getting. It's absolutely shocking to me. Yeah, it really is. And, I look at some of these people and I ask the question always like, how could they enjoy their day? Like, I know they're enjoying their food, but how can they enjoy their day? Yeah. It's mind blowing. And what's scary is it's not stopping. So I agree with what you said. It's going to have to get, like I said, a national calamity of some kind, but I don't wish that, I don't want that.
I had a podcast guest, Corey Davis, on, and he was talking about generational memory. And that seems to be the problem. I'm living in a town that I lived in 40 years ago. And as soon as I came here again, I saw the extraordinary obesity. I remember being here when I was young, and all the people my age, there was very little obesity. Now I see young people. My wife even went to a beauty shop, and even the young women working in a beauty shop were all obese. And so they don't have the generational memory of what it was like 20 years ago. To them, it's normal. 40% of, I think it's 42% of Americans now are obese. So it's like the frog in the water that's boiling. It becomes normal to people.
Yeah.
Like that movie Wall-E, where everybody's round.
Yeah.
And so now we have to get through to people and say, no, this isn't normal. And no,
Yeah.
we're not body shaming. It's just that this is not healthy. Virtually every disease is likely to hit you at a higher rate if you're obese than if you're fit. There's nothing good about being obese. And, without body shaming, we have to invite people to change.
Yeah. I think like a big part is the environment as well that we live in nowadays. Like things have been made so accessible. You think about how we've been wired as humans, right? We've been wired that like we're in the middle of nowhere. We have to find food, eat as much as we can because we don't know when's the next time we're going to find a meal, and we're moving around all day. We're so wired that way. But now you sit down and you can Uber Eats foods to your house. You can Instacart, groceries to your house. You don't have to move. You have access to thousands and thousands of calories within 30 minutes. And being wired to just consume these foods, you need to put systems in place to not use these things. But yeah, we're wired for calorie density. Like right now it's winter time. Like Anthony was mentioning, there's a little bit of snow on the ground, which I enjoy for maybe a week, and then I got to get out after. But a lot of members, like, I have so many cravings right now. I don't know what's happening with me. Maybe I ate something that kind of caused me to have more cravings. I'm like, where do you live? Oh, I live in New York. I live in Toronto. I'm like, it's cold. Your body's just trying to store fat, so your organs are freaking freezing during the winter, right? It's just your body's wired to store when it's time to store. You go to Mexico during the winter, you'll lose a bunch of weight and you'll feel good and you won't be hungry, right? That's another thing to keep in mind.
But our bodies are wired the same way they were 20 or 40 years ago. The food has really changed.
Yeah, and it's so accessible.
Food is getting fattier and fattier, and more meat and dairy.
Yeah, and empty of nutrients, so you can just eat a ton and not feel satiated.
And even in the vegan section of the grocery stores, the processed foods, everything's got coconut oil now. I mean, even if you're talking about the less healthy things in the vegan section, like let's say vegan ice creams. I used to, sometimes get a vegan ice cream made with soy oil or something, and, not the healthiest thing in the world. I don't eat that now, but I used to 10 or 15 years ago. Now I can't even find anything that doesn't have coconut oil.
Like on the other side of that coin, I just found, I live right across the street from our local health food store. It's probably a natural grocer or something. I call it the health food store. It's been there forever. And they have these little, it's frozen smoothies, but it's called a little something. And if you Google it, a little something ice cream, it comes in these little tiny things. And the first ingredient is bananas. And the second ingredient is some other fruits. And there's a peanut butter flavor. And there's one that's got cacao in it. So, I love seeing these brands that pop up that are health promoting and delicious and convenient and all those things. And I buy them, even though they're expensive, because I would love to see them stick around. Like, I would guess, I mean, Glenn, you know what a sunshine burger is, right?
Yes. They were made with nuts and
It was made with sunflower seeds. Sunflower seeds was the base. That's why it was.
I haven't seen them in the wild.
They went out of business about 2 years ago. Yeah, I figured Paul. Like, it's so sad to me, but they were they were low in salt. They were packed with, like, they had broccoli and they had carrots in them and they had greens in them and it had all these vegetables and then sunflower seeds and beans, and it was put into and I would. Like, that was my go-to. I could keep them in the freezer and grab, and they're gone. So
there's one now that I've seen that's good. It's called something like I don't know the brand name. It's called something like the Real Purple Burger.
Actual veggies. It's called. They make a purple one, a pink one. Yeah,
and those have good ingredients.
Yeah, great. Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah. And so that's, we all have to buy those to keep them in business.
Right.
And I just saw a really good alternative latte company the other day, Unimaginable Foods, I think, unimaginablepoods.com probably. And she's got like super high fiber, oat milk, blah, 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 latte that's got all the brain boosting stuff and none of the bad stuff in the latte mixes. So yeah, it is. Now we've got the vegan junk food, the Oreos, whatever, and we've got to steer them back to that.
If you want to optimize your health by following a plant-based, low-fat diet, look into the education, events, recipes, exercise, fun, and more provided by the Plant-Based Nutrition Support Group at pbnsg.org.
So we've talked a whole bunch about the health side of this. I'm just curious of like the tipping points in the environment or the animal side a little bit too. I mean, I think you hit it on the head, Anthony, when you said like we've just got 100 subgroups that all have half a percentage point, and none of them have rallied to 3.5. How do we congeal us, or how do we do that? Because I know, like to Maxime's point, like what's it going to be? Because when you say I only eat a little bit of fish, I'm like, okay, well, I instantly go like, that's probably our number one concern. At least we've got the cows and the chickens on a pretty cycle for the most part, but we are literally going to run out of fish in our lifetimes. Like by 2050, they say the ocean is going to be empty, which causes economic collapse in my mind on every level when there's no
environmental
fish.
Issues. There's going to be so much.
So like that is like well before I plan on dying. So, you know, what talk to me about the environment or the animal side of this. Thoughts?
Well, you know, absolutely, we have to protect the oceans, but we don't have any leaders of any nations in the world saying what we have to do, which is we need a moratorium on fishing. You know, I mean, if it was me, it would be forever. But we at very least need to stop exploiting fisheries for a period of time to let the ocean heal. And you know, it's. I mean, everybody should see Seaspiracy. You know, and this is a really depraved industry. This is an industry in which when they accidentally catch dolphins, instead of releasing them, they kill them because they don't want the dolphins competing with them for the tuna. It's an extraordinarily depraved industry, and you know, it's just so politically hard to stop it, to get any nation to say we have to have a moratorium.
Do you think that the environmental side of it is going to be the angle that we get the tipping point? Like, I mean, you can walk up to anybody and say, look, you could live a much healthier, happier life if you just started eating the plants with me. You know what I mean? Like, and that's like a very personal thing that we have all seen in our lives. I know all of us have influenced others, but like, will the world come together this environment thing quicker than the plant movement?
I don't think so.
Our problem is that as we hit more and more extreme climate events, like the city of Phoenix had 115 degrees or more for like a month last summer. As we hit more and more extreme climate events, Canada being on fire, the forests in Canada, what we find is the politicians say, at least those who understand a little bit about the science, they say, we have to do something about climate change. This is serious. This is now. It's happening now. So we have to stop burning fossil fuels. But they don't say we have to stop eating meat. You know,
right?
And so even when the climate event gets people's attention, it takes their attention and puts it towards the number 2 cause of climate change, burning fossil fuels, and not the number 1 cause of climate change, which is animal agriculture.
You know, the other thing too is that our population it keeps growing, and we've got to be able to feed people. And again, as I said earlier, I pray and hope it never happens, but it's going to be a world event that is going to have to awake all these people, because until you get China and India understanding and believing and doing, we can do everything in America and Canada possible. But if they're not on board, I mean, they're 2/3 of the population, and they're growing. So again, you know, like it's scary. It is scary. You know, as a father and a grandparent, it scares me. It really does. And you know, what can you do? Well, what can you do is you could just keep trying to be a beacon, as Maxime said. You know, just lead by example, because there's so few things you could control.
Yeah, I don't feel that I don't feel like the environment will ever be the number one leading cause people to transition unless like the whole world's on fire and the oceans are taking
The
over the
aliens
land,
attack.
you know. But the thing is, like, when you get to that point, a lot of it will be irreversible, right? Versus if you get sick, yeah, you can get healthier, you can reverse some of the chronic illnesses that people have. So I feel like if we lead with the environment, which honestly, out of all the people I've ever encountered that are vegan, very rarely is environment the number one reason, right? Usually it's health or kind of animal cruelty that tend to be the leading causes. So I feel like the environment is a supporting act to the other big reasons as to why people transition. But I feel like if we just count on the environment and world leaders to kind of make a change there, I don't think it will do much because there's still the demand for fish. There's still a demand for all these other products. And so we have to change the demand that people have to be like, shit, there's no more money in this anymore. There's money in soy. There's money in grains. Let's just go do more of that because they're just following the money at the end of the day.
You know, Maxime,
That's what
one thing for sure is we got to get the humans right first because we are so selfish. And until we get, you know, the humans right, they don't care about the animals and the environment. So to me, it's always been about getting the humans right.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, I like the fact that like California is like clearly a rule setter, and then it usually is a tipping point for the rest of America to follow suit over the next 10 years and a lot of things. And that's where I think the carbon emission, you know, economy is going to take off. But I do feel like we need more taxes on the things that are destroying the environment. And could the government do that? But then you need the people to rally for it in the first place, and we all don't want to pay more taxes on anything. So
well, I
say go ahead, Anthony.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. I think it's about like how far in the future do any of us kind of care about typically, or how far do we see? How long sighted are we? Because when we're long sighted, the environmental makes a big impact. And when people have children and they start thinking about their children or their children, they get. But what you said, if policy makes it immediately more expensive to do the thing that's detrimental to the environment, then it becomes all of a sudden now it's my problem today because I don't want to pay this for the one that wrecks the environment versus this for the one that fixes it. And I think it's something that we can all kind of take more responsibility. I think the same thing happens with health. You know, when people sit down, it's like, oh, this cheeseburger's not going to be the one that kills me, right? It's like I'm going to have to eat 100 of these over the next years, then that's going to maybe, you know, like so it's you know, I do think that immediate kind of just thinking about in the moment, none of these things I think will really take big traction because there's no immediate impact. So we have to help people to understand the long-term benefits. And that's where it does happen in all of these different directions. And that is probably where the animal, you know, the animal compassion kind of does take you know, more of a front seat because there is immediate, you know, I mean, these animals are on a truck, you know, going to be turned into food, you know, right now. You know, and we can take action and we can stop that. But then people can easily say, well, if I don't eat it, somebody else is going to eat it. The animal's still going to get, you know, be slaughtered or whatever. So, yeah, we're so complicated.
We need to make it like a cultural thing because, again, this might be a little weird twist on kind of all this more serious conversation about the environment and everything, but I think about like my fiance's from the Philippines. And so when she tells me about people in the Philippines that they won't have a lot of money, but they'll go and spend, you know, a month's worth of rent on a Gucci t-shirt, and you'll go to Asia and they'll want to copy the trends that are in America. I feel like if we can get veganism to be cool, like America pretty much sends a trend for the rest of the world. Like if something's cool here, it'll be cool in India, it'll be cool in Asia, it'll be cool in the Philippines, it'll be cool in those other countries where meat consumption is really heavy. And a lot of people want to do what people are doing, especially if you look at LA and New York, they're kind of the two biggest cities that people want to emulate and copy the trends. I feel like it has to become a part of the culture. It's like those freaking Stanley Cups, right? They had that video where the car burned down and a Stanley Cup was fine. I'm at the gym now. Everyone has Stanley Cups, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like we need to embed it into the culture where it becomes cool.
I worry about that just because like quinoa is cool. Like America has made quinoa the coolest thing on the planet, but quinoa comes from Bolivia, and quinoa has the Bolivian economy, because now potato chips are less expensive versus quinoa, and we all know quinoa is way better than potato chips. So we're exporting all the quinoa out of where it's produced and importing American potatoes. But I mean, I totally get your point. Like, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer there, but totally, like, absolutely. How do we make it cool? Because the thing for me that pops in my head is, like, I watched maybe a week or two ago, I finally had a chance to sit down and I watched From Food to Freedom. And that's a free movie you can watch on YouTube. I think they released it on YouTube finally for free. And it was all about, bringing 5 or 6 patients through they had extreme diabetes, and how going plant-based for just 10 days got them off of a good majority of their meds, right? Extremely powerful. But then they went back and interviewed them a few months later to see how they're doing. All boiled down to one word, which I think probably resonates with all 5 of us, is discipline on that front. And just, what is discipline? Because I know I'm even guilty of it. Like, and I've been, over the past year or two, I've tried to be much, much more conscious about all aspects of discipline. Like, I got a new belt for Christmas, and it was a leather belt. And I had the hardest time telling this person, like, I love you. Thank you so much for this present. Is there any way we can please exchange this for a non-leather, thing? And that's one of the ones, like, again, I don't think twice about that a lot. Like, my veganism is very much tied to my food, not so much what I wear. But I'm starting to try and say, like, I can skip the straw. I can try to point out that that's not a healthy choice to my kids, or that's got leather in it, we're not going to purchase that. So try to, like we said, walk with our wallets, with our handbags here, and make the decisions that are going to ripple through the economy in every way. So I don't know, how are you guys seeing discipline come out in what you're doing?
Well, I was going to just throw in, if we could get like 10 Taylor Swift type superstars and have them
there, they are,
and have them create a series of advertisements that make, and Maxime, I agree, make it culturally cool to not eat animals, then I promise you that generation would not eat animals.
Right.
So again, and then I and this is part of what I've been doing is going around trying to collect a great amount of people to create one voice. Like I said, everyone, I know they got to pay their bills, respect, they got to do their thing. But what happens if we had just one big voice to talk about things? We don't. We've got 100 voices. So I think those are the 2 things that I would like to see, change. If we could get some influencers to talk about how cool it is to be plant-based for whatever the reason, human, plant, animal, and then create a message, a consistent one voice message.
I have Taylor Swift's phone number somewhere. I think I misplaced it. But
Put that in the chat box, will you, Glenn?
Yeah.
Tell her I say hello, okay?
All right.
For those late night calls, Glenn.
I think what we're seeing there's kind of 2 sides to this I guess change catalyst, or this motivator, right? It's things that we move away from, things that we're afraid of, things that we want to avoid. That's kind of on the pushing us forward in the one side. And then there's those invitations, right? There's that magnetic force that kind of pulling us towards it. And yeah, I mean, I think what's been happening is it kind of naturally a combination of the 2 will work for people, because when someone does get sick, and I'll say, Paul and me, and I'm not sure about, why exactly why others have changed. Like, there's a pretty big moment where you're ready to make a big change. And I feel like the invitations, we just have to get them out there. And I just looked, vegan pop stars, and there's a whole bunch of them. And there are big ones that
Billie Eilish, Lewis Hamilton,
Natalie Portman, Lizzo. Some of these ones are so cool that I don't even recognize the names, but which means that it's my kids would be paying attention to what they tell them versus what I tell them and stuff.
Right.
But I just don't know. I think what you said is great, Paul. It's like we have to figure out how to make it first.
How do you reach them though? That's the problem. I about a month ago, I wrote down the 10 top influencers, and I sent emails to 8 of the 10 that I thought was their email. I didn't get any reply, but I'm doing that every month to hope that they could respond back. But it's just not easy to reach these people.
Well, and also it's not necessarily what everyone wants to be identified with. I mean, even if people are doing it for their own reasons, they don't not like they've got, everyone has their own focus. And I think we're here, Real Men Eat Plants. We probably want to encourage other men to kind of, take this fully and eat more plants, right? But when someone's focused on their music or their career or their films or something like that, like that, it kind of becomes a secondary thing.
I love it. Well, we've got a couple minutes left. I want to throw out the question out there. I'd love to still hear a little bit of discipline, but at the same time, like, let's look at this episode in 10 years. And what are your predictions? When's America going to hit its tipping point for our plant-based movement here?
I feel like we're really
my friend
near.
Silas Schraus says that it's got to be by November 2026, because that's when his granddaughter has her sweet 16. So I'm not going to contradict Silas. So it's got to be November 2026.
He got to the month. Well done, Glenn.
Yeah.
I said I would love to see it next 10 years. I feel like we're nearing a tipping point because it's gaining more and more popularity. And obviously my view is a little bit skewed because I live in this world. Like all my friends are vegan. I work in the vegan space, and but I feel like there's more and more people coming through the movement, and I have more and more conversations with people that are absolutely like completely not eating plant-based and that are wanting to eat plant-based and kind of being open to it. And I'm seeing more and more of those people. Obviously, that's just on my small scale. But I think the public is waking up, and there's cool documentaries coming out in the next like months to years. And I think that's going to kind of help make the push, and hopefully they make it game changers too. Because I don't know, it was like that helped a lot of people transition.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I hope so too.
I'm just going to trust Glenn on. I'm just going to trust Glenn on his prediction.
The bad news is my wife came across some study on the web that said that the majority of people in the world will go vegan by 2075. And if so, that means that Silas's granddaughter is going to have a sweet 75 party, so.
And we're all going to have to stick around for a long time in order to see it, huh?
Yeah.
Paul, for you, any predictions?
No, I'm sorry. I mean, I've been doing this for 12 years, and I call it. I've chosen to do hard time in the plant-based world for 12 years. I love it. I'm still doing it, but I couldn't possibly. I can't predict tomorrow, man. So it's like I'm just taking one day at a time. That's kind of how I try to train myself.
Well, that is awesome. I appreciate everybody being here. I know, Anthony, you mentioned that place earlier, and I think you found a different name for it, right? What was it? Eat Sweet.
Oh yeah. It was, I spaced on, or I goofed up.
pbnsg.org, and probably in the next 30 days it will also be the sagecirclealliance.org. So I wear multiple hats.
Very cool. And my fellow podcast host, Glenn,
glenmerzer.com, and I've got a podcast, The Glen Merzer Show, on YouTube.
That is awesome. Again, I really appreciate you guys coming in and talking about this. I think it was a lot of fun to just explore the tipping point with you all. Any parting thoughts as we wrap up for the day?
Nice to meet you, Maxime. Good seeing you, Glenn and Anthony and Bryan. But
Yeah.
carry the
Really
torch,
great.
man. Let's all keep carrying the torch.
Yeah, love what everybody's doing.
Yeah, pleasure
Thank
to
you,
meet you
guys.
guys. Very grateful to be here.
Thank you.
We will wrap up today's episode of Real Men Eat Plants podcast. Check out other episodes online. Let us know who else we should get on the show, any other topics that you want to discuss. We would love to have more real men eating plants on here, helping to spread the word. Thanks again, everybody. We really, really appreciate you.
All right, you've reached the end of another enlightening episode of Real Men Eat Plants. We've revved up the man machine and explored the thrilling world of veggies. Remember, guys, flexing your manhood isn't about the size of the steak on your plate, but the strength of sprouts in your salad bowl. For those eager to continue their journey towards plant-powered masculinity, buckle up and head over to our website at realmeneatplants.com. There, you'll unlock access to exclusive content, mouth-watering recipes, and advice from the plant-based powerhouses themselves. Oh, and don't forget to follow us on social media for your daily dose of inspiration and connect with a community of men just like you who have joined the Plant Parade. Remember, it's not just about becoming stronger, healthier, and more vibrant. You're also becoming an eco-warrior, playing a vital role in the wellness of our planet. We appreciate your support and can't wait to catch up with you in the next episode. Until then, keep fueling your manhood with Mother Nature's pantry. And remember, with a sprig of humor, Real Men Eat Plants will be rooting for you until we meet again.